So I actually had a request to answer some questions, and so I thought I would just put it out in a video form so you know who you are. A friend of mine, old friend of mine from childhood, was asking me about physical symptoms, and so I will just talk directly to her if you don't mind. So I will just tell you that this has been a 25-year plus journey. And my symptoms started when I was in high school with stomach issues and allergies that were out of control. And by the time I was 20, I think, is when I was in the hospital and was first diagnosed with IBS and fibromyalgia. So over the years, my symptoms have just ever been growing and changing, and I've just been managing and medicating. I wish I would have known back in my early 20s that I was beginning to deal with autoimmune issues, because I think I would have probably educated myself better, or you know, now that I say that out loud, I don't really know that I would. What did we know 25 years ago? Certainly not what we know now, and doctors really didn't look at the body as a whole. The whole industry is specialized, right? So all of these years, even with my working for physicians, no one ever made suggestions for whole body health, or really probably just were not educated, if I could say that. So, you know, amongst having colitis and diarrhea and bleeding and horrible cramps and chronic fatigue and pain, I had pain in my early 20s, and then I went into remission. And then probably, I would say that the last couple of years, you know, and I just have to just make a sidebar and just say to you that when I was, or back up, I should say, when I was finally diagnosed with thyroid disease, my main complaints, if I remember correctly, because that was, you know, 10 to 12 years ago, were fatigue and memory, problems with my memory and just kind of my mind. I felt awful. I was achy. I really just knew that something was not working right. My hair was starting to thin, and my skin was drying out. I had put on weight for no reason, and I couldn't get it off, no matter what I did. And I've always been a very small person, right? So I'm 5 feet, and when I graduated high school, I was 87 pounds. When I married my second husband, I was like 115 pounds. So I've always been kind of small, but then all of a sudden I had 15, 20, 25 pounds on me out of nowhere. I've also had a couple of miscarriages along the way. I just knew that something was not right with my body. On top of feeling very hormonal, or feeling hormonal changes, which of course were chalked up to age. And so this last round of, I always call it disease, this last round of disease, the last couple of years, the fatigue was so bad. I was having a hard time thinking, remembering. I was falling for no reason, dizziness. The pain probably is the worst for me, because it's my type of pain is very limiting. My muscles do not want to move. So it's almost like you are looking at your arm and you're telling your arm to pick up that pencil, but it won't do, even though you feel like you're trying to do. And then when you go to pick up that pencil, it's as if you're moving against hurricane force winds. My muscles tend to respond with kind of getting contracted. Like if you think of how your muscle works, it contracts and releases. That was opposite, right? Contracts and releases. And it's almost as if my muscles contract and then they don't have that release. So like if you were to feel my muscles through the fat, of course, they're hard. They're hard as a rock. And even my physical therapist has talked to me about how my muscles feel as though I am a bodybuilder, or someone who is very into exercise because of the tone of my muscles, but anyone who knows me can attest to the fact that I am anti-exercise, you know, because of all the effort, and I'd rather take a nap and lay down anywhere, actually, than to exercise. So, yeah, never been one to exercise at all. So that those muscles being hard and then not releasing, and then if you can imagine, it's exhausting. And the mental fatigue, I will tell you, is also exhausting. It is so much effort to try to maintain the high functionality that you've always known when your mind and your body is working against you. Because all of this time, I just try to maintain at that same level. Just because I have a physical limitation, like, I'm not giving into that. This is just how I have been driven until recently, as in a month ago. I must maintain that level no matter what. 100% perfection, 24 hours a day. I am on it. Everything I touch is going to be perfection. And of course, when your body's working against you, everything is just magnified. So, I don't know if that really answers your question. I'm going to do a video and just kind of give an example of daily life, probably here in the next couple of days, just to further give insight to what it's like to have chronic illness. But I will just tell you that over the years, if there's a symptom, I've had it. I've had, you know, along with all of this, miscarriages and surgeries and surprise physical conditions. I'm always have been, up to this point in my life, dealing with some kind of physical something. So, and you know, the symptoms change over the years. Age doesn't help. For a woman, you know, your hormones change naturally. So with your thyroid problems, that's hormonal as well. You know, it's all been just a really big mix. So I encourage you, if you feel like something is not right, and I would just suggest to everyone, you get to know your body. You know what works for you, know what doesn't work for you. Be your own advocate. Don't be quiet. Make a big deal. If a doctor's not listening to you, you educate yourself and you find someone who will work with you. And pray about it for sure. God will give you the help that you need. He will direct you to someone who's going to help you. I am becoming my best advocate. I can see now that although I thought I knew what was going on, I relied heavily on the physicians I worked for and the medical community I worked in, and did what I was told because I'm dutiful and obedient like that. But I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to educate myself. I'm going to figure out what's going on. I'm going to find someone who will work with me. And if you feel like you have an autoimmune disease, I'm talking specifically the person who asked me this question, figure it out. Find someone, a functional medical practitioner. There's an example of my brain. Excuse me while I kill a spider. Nature. I prefer air conditioning. But find a natural physician, a functional medical practitioner. Find a doctor, medical doctor, who will work with your natural doctor together to get you the help that you need. A lot of mental, emotional disorders are tied to the physical body. They work hand in hand. Your body works as a whole. That is how God created it. Change things in your life. Research, read. But don't stop. If you feel like there's a problem, don't stop until you figure it out. This is your life. These are the years that God has given us. And you certainly don't want to live any less than you have to. So I will say to you what you said to me. I love you to the moon and back. Childhood friends, if I can be of encouragement to you in any way, I am here. Oh my gosh. And there's just the realization that God has given me a heart for other people. And it's going to start with you. More later. Bye.